My name is Clara Daniels, and I'm 25 years old. But just last year, my entire life changed when the very people who treated me like they're unpaid maid watched a Fortune 500 CEO look me straight in the eye and call me boss. For 24 years, I lived as the family servant while my younger sister Evelyn got everything: designer clothes, private tutors, vacations to Europe. I got dirty dishes and criticism. My parents, Harold and Margaret Daniels, built their whole world around appearances and status. To them, I was invisible until they needed someone to cook, clean, or run errands. My brother Victor just watched it happen, telling me to be patient and do what they say. But on one humiliating night, when my father looked me dead in the face and said, "Clara, you're nothing without this family," something inside me finally snapped. What I decided to do next would either destroy my family completely or finally make them realize who I truly was. If you've ever felt underestimated, ignored, or treated like you didn't belong in your own family, drop a comment below, because what happened next will shock you, and you'll want to see exactly how the story ends. C named Mrs. Henderson noticed me rushing around and asked my mother, "Who's the lovely young lady helping tonight?" My mother laughed, and said, "Oh, that's just Clara. She loves keeping busy. We joke that we never need to hire help because Clara takes care of everything." The guests chuckled politely. I smiled and nodded like a good little servant. But inside, I felt like my chest was caving in. Later that night, after I finished washing every dish and wiping down every surface, I overheard my parents talking in the living room. "Evelyn was magnificent tonight," my father said. The Hendersons were impressed. This networking could really help her career. "She's going to be something special," my mother agreed. "Thank goodness we have Clara to handle the household stuff. Evelyn shouldn't waste her talents on cooking and cleaning." I stood there in the hallway, still wearing my stained apron, listening to them dismiss me like I was a household appliance. Something useful, but not worthy of dreams or ambitions. That's when I realized they didn't see me as their daughter. They saw me as their solution to a problem. Why hire a maid when Clara will do it for free? The pattern continued for years. Every family gathering, every dinner party, every holiday celebration, I was the one working while Evelyn was the one shining. When Evelyn turned 18, they threw her a party that cost more than most people's cars. Live band, catered food, 50 of her closest friends dancing on our back lawn. She wore a custom dress that cost $3,000, and my parents hired a professional photographer to capture their princess on her special day. When I turned 21, supposedly a milestone birthday, they forgot entirely. I spent the evening cleaning up after Evelyn's celebration from the night before, finding empty champagne bottles and picking confetti out of the carpet. But you know what the real tragedy was? I kept believing that if I just worked harder, if I just proved how valuable I was, they would finally see me, finally appreciate me, finally treat me like their daughter instead of their help. I was wrong. Dead wrong. And it took one devastating conversation with my father to wake me up to the truth about my place in this family. Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Have you ever done everything right just to be treated like you don't matter? Because what my father said to me next changed everything. College was supposed to be my escape from the Daniels house, but even there, I couldn't fully break free from their shadow. While other freshmen were figuring out their majors and making friends, I was working 3 part-time jobs just to afford textbooks. My parents paid Evelyn's full tuition at her fancy private school, but they told me I needed to earn my education at the local state college. "It builds character," my father said when I asked for help with student loans. "Evelyn needs our financial support because she's studying something important. You're just taking general business classes." Just general business classes. Like my future didn't matter. That's where I met Naomi Rodriguez in our Economics 101 lecture. She was this confident girl from Chicago who wore vintage band t-shirts and always had her laptop covered in stickers from different startups. While I sat quietly in the back, afraid to draw attention to myself, Naomi would challenge the professor and ask questions that made everyone think differently. One day after class, she approached me. "You always take the best notes," she said. "But you never speak up. Why?" I shrugged. "I don't really have anything important to say." Naomi stared at me like I'd just said something crazy. "Are you kidding? You wrote a 3-page analysis on that supply chain case study. Your ideas were better than anything the professor suggested." Nobody had ever called my ideas better before. At home, my opinions were dismissed before I could finish speaking them. But Naomi saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. We became study partners, then roommates, then best friends. For the first time in my life, someone actually listened when I talked. Really listened. During our sophomore year, Naomi started talking about this crazy idea she had for a digital marketing company. Small businesses needed help building their online presence, but they couldn't afford the big agencies. "We could start small," she said one night while we were eating ramen noodles in our tiny dorm room. Help local shops, restaurants, maybe some service businesses. I know the tech side, but I need someone who understands strategy and client relationships. You should find someone with experience, I told her. I don't know anything about running a business. Clara, stop selling yourself short, Naomi said, getting that frustrated look she always got when I doubted myself. You've been managing your family's entire household since you were 12. You coordinate schedules, manage budgets, solve problems under pressure. That's literally what business management is. I'd never thought about it that way. To me, what I did at home wasn't skill, it was just survival. But Naomi kept pushing. She showed me articles about successful women entrepreneurs who started with nothing. She made me help her write business plans for class projects. Slowly, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could do more than wash dishes and fold laundry. The turning point came during our junior year. We were working on a mock marketing campaign for a local bakery as our final project. While other teams created basic flyers and social media posts, I developed this comprehensive strategy that included community partnerships, seasonal promotions, and customer loyalty programs. Our professor, Dr. Martinez, pulled me aside after our presentation. Clara, this work is exceptional. Have you considered applying for the entrepreneurship scholarship?
Me?
A scholarship for future business leaders? I'm not really scholarship material, I said automatically. Dr. Martinez frowned.
Who told you that?
I couldn't answer because I realized the truth. Nobody had told me that. I'd just assumed it based on years of being told I wasn't special, wasn't smart enough, wasn't worth investing in. Apply, Dr. Martinez said firmly. Your strategic thinking is exactly what we're looking for. That night, I called home to share the news. I was so excited, I thought maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time they'd be proud. A scholarship, my mother said. Clara, don't get your hopes up. You know how disappointed you get when things don't work out. But Dr. Martinez thinks I have a real chance. Sweetheart, be realistic, my father interrupted on the extension. You're not CEO material. Focus on finishing school and finding something stable. Leave the big dreams to Evelyn. I hung up the phone feeling deflated. But Naomi was there like always. Forget them, she said. Apply anyway. And when you win, we're starting our company for real. She believed in me when nobody else would. What would you do if your best friend saw your potential, but your family couldn't? 2 years after graduation, I was still living at home, still playing the role of family servant, and still believing that someday they'd appreciate everything I did for them. I was working as a receptionist at a small accounting firm during the day and helping Naomi with her freelance marketing projects at night. We'd managed to land a few small clients, a local gym, a family restaurant, a dog grooming business, but I kept it quiet at home. To my family, it was just Clara playing with computers. The night everything changed started like any other family dinner. Evelyn had just gotten engaged to some guy named Bradley, whose family owned a chain of luxury car dealerships. My parents were over the moon. The wedding will be at the country club, my mother announced, practically glowing. We're thinking next spring. Evelyn, darling, you'll need to start dress shopping immediately. I want something custom, Evelyn said, cutting into her steak. The steak I'd spent 2 hours marinating and cooking perfectly. Something nobody else has ever worn. Of course, my father said. Nothing but the best for our princess. I was clearing plates when my mother turned to me. Clara, you'll be Evelyn's maid of honor, naturally. You'll need to coordinate all the bridal shower planning, handle the dress fittings, manage the wedding details. Not, would you like to be maid of honor? Not, we'd be honored if you'd help. Just an assumption that I'd drop everything to serve Evelyn once again. Actually, I said carefully, I might be pretty busy with work around then. The table went silent. Evelyn stopped chewing. My parents stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. Work, my father said slowly. Clara, you answer phones at an accounting office. I'm sure they can spare you for your sister's wedding. I'm also working on some marketing projects. Oh, please. Evelyn rolled her eyes. You mean that little hobby you do with your college friend? Mom, she's not going to let some side hustle interfere with my wedding. Evelyn's right, my mother said firmly. Clara, family comes first. Your sister only gets married once. I felt that familiar tightness in my chest, but something was different this time. Maybe it was because Naomi had been telling me for months that I was worth more than this. Maybe it was because our little marketing company was actually starting to make real money. Or maybe I was just tired of being treated like the family employee. It's not a hobby, I said quietly. It's a business. And it's important to me. My father set down his fork with a sharp clink. Clara, let's be honest here. You help your friend make flyers for local businesses. That's not a career. It's a distraction. Stop embarrassing yourself and focus on what matters. What matters? The words came out louder than I intended. You mean what matters to Evelyn? Clara, my mother warned in that tone she used when I was stepping out of line. But I couldn't stop. 24 years of swallowed words came rushing up my throat. I cook every meal. I clean this entire house. I do everyone's laundry, run all the errands, handle all the appointments. When do I get to do what matters to me? You get a roof over your head and food on your table, my father said, his voice turning ice cold. You get the privilege of being part of this family. The privilege, I repeated. My father stood up, his face flushed with anger. Clara, let me make something very clear. You are nothing without this family. Nothing. You have no special talents, no remarkable skills, no promising future. You're lucky we keep you here at all. Without us, you'd be lost and alone with nobody to take care of you. The words hit me like physical blows. Nothing. Lucky they keep me. No promising future. Harold, my mother said softly, but she didn't disagree with him. Neither did Victor. Neither did Evelyn. They all just sat there, letting his words hang in the air like poison. I looked around the table at these people who were supposed to love me, protect me, believe in me. Instead, they saw me as a burden they were generous enough to tolerate. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. Have you ever had someone who was supposed to love you tell you that you were nothing? That night, after my father told me I was nothing, I sat on my bed staring at the cracked ceiling above me, tears streaming down my face. My hands still smelled like dish soap from cleaning up after dinner, and my back ached from scrubbing pots and pans. But somewhere between the tears and the anger, a dangerous thought crept into my mind. What if I proved him wrong? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my text messages until I found Naomi's name. Are you serious about starting our own company? I typed, my fingers shaking slightly. Her response came back within minutes. Are you kidding? I've been waiting for you to say yes for 2 years. What changed? I stared at the screen, not sure how to explain that my father had just destroyed me so completely that I had nothing left to lose. I'm ready to stop playing it safe. The next morning, while my family slept off their fancy dinner, I drove to the bank and opened a business account. I'd been secretly saving money for 3 years. Every dollar from my receptionist job that I didn't have to spend on gas or groceries for the family. It wasn't much, but it was enough. $3,250. Hidden in old textbooks, stuffed in winter coat pockets, rolled up in socks at the back of my drawer. Money they never knew existed because they never asked about my life outside of serving them. Naomi and I met at a coffee shop downtown to make it official. She brought a business plan she'd been working on for months, complete with projected earnings and client acquisition strategies. Nova Strategies, she said, sliding the folder across the table. Digital marketing for small businesses who can't afford the big agencies. Nova, like a star that burns brighter than anything around it. We found a tiny office space above a flower shop for $400 a month. It had one window, 2 desks, and a coffee stain on the carpet that looked like Texas. To me, it was the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. But here's the crazy part. I couldn't tell my family about any of it. Every morning, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to make breakfast for everyone. Pack Evelyn's lunch. Iron my father's shirts. Clean the kitchen. Then I'd drive to my receptionist job, work 8 hours answering phones and filing papers, and afterward I'd head to our little office above the flower shop. Naomi and I would work until midnight sometimes, building websites, creating social media campaigns, cold calling potential clients. She handled the technical stuff, while I focused on strategy and client relationships. Our first real client was Rosa's Mexican restaurant. Rosa was this tiny woman who made the best tamales in the city, but nobody knew about her place because it was tucked away in a strip mall with no foot traffic. I can pay you $200 a month, she said apologetically. I know it's not much, but business has been slow. $200. My family spent more than that on wine for a single dinner party. But you know what?
We took the job.
And within 3 months, Rosa's had a line out the door every weekend. Her Yelp reviews went from 12 to over 300. Her monthly revenue doubled. You girls are miracle workers, Rosa told us, tears in her eyes as she handed us our check. You saved my restaurant. That's when I realized something my father would never understand. Success isn't about having money handed to you. It's about solving real problems for real people. More clients followed. A struggling bookstore that needed help with online sales. A personal trainer who wanted to build his brand. A small law firm that needed better marketing materials. We weren't getting rich, but we were building something real. Something valuable. Something mine. The hardest part was coming home every night and pretending to be the same old Clara. Washing dishes while secretly planning marketing campaigns. Folding laundry while mentally rehearsing client presentations. My family had no idea that their nothing daughter was building an empire right under their noses. But I knew that someday, somehow, the truth would come out. And when it did, everything would change. Have you ever had to hide your dreams from the people who were supposed to support them? What I discovered next would give me the perfect chance for revenge. 6 months into running Nova Strategies, I decided to test something. I wanted to see how my family would react if they knew even the smallest piece of what I was building. Maybe, just maybe, they'd surprise me. Maybe they'd be proud. Maybe they'd finally see that I was more than their live-in housekeeper. I was so wrong, it's almost funny now. It started on a Tuesday morning while I was making coffee. My mother was sitting at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone and complaining about the country club's new membership fees. "Mom," I said casually, "I've been helping some local businesses with their marketing. It's actually going pretty well." She looked up from her phone with that distracted expression she always wore when I tried to talk to her about anything important. "That's nice, dear. Could you make my coffee a little stronger today? And don't forget to pick up my dry cleaning." I tried again. I mean, we're actually making decent money. We helped this restaurant double their weekend sales. Now I had her attention, but not in the way I'd hoped. "Clara, you need to be careful about these little side projects. You don't want to get in over your head. Some people aren't cut out for business, and there's nothing wrong with that." Some people aren't cut out for business. Like me, apparently. But I pushed forward. "Actually, the restaurant owner said we saved her business. She's referring other clients to us." My mother laughed, that dismissive little laugh that always made my stomach hurt. "Sweetheart, don't embarrass yourself. No real company would hire you for serious marketing work. You're too plain, too quiet. Business is about making impressions, commanding rooms. That's Evelyn's strength, not yours." I stood there holding the coffee pot, feeling like I'd been slapped. Too plain, too quiet, not cut out for business. "Focus on supporting your sister," she continued. "She's meeting with actual CEOs and investors. Real business people who could change our family's future. Real business people. Unlike me, obviously." That weekend, I tried a different approach with my brother Victor. He was in the garage working on his motorcycle, and I thought maybe he'd be more supportive. "Victor, can I ask you something?" I said, leaning against his workbench. "If you were starting a business, how would you handle difficult clients?" He looked up from his wrench, oil smudged across his forehead.
Why?
"You thinking about starting something?" "Well, Naomi and I have been." "Clara," he interrupted gently, "I'm going to give you some advice. Don't overthink things. You're not cut out for the business world. It's cutthroat, competitive, stressful. You're better off doing what you're told and keeping things simple. You're not cut out for the business world." There it was again. "But what if I actually am good at it?" I pressed. Victor sighed like I was a child, asking why the sky was blue. "Look, some people are leaders, and some people are followers. Some people take risks, and some people play it safe. You've always been the safe type, Clara. There's nothing wrong with that. The safe type. The follower. The one who does what she's told." But the worst conversation was with Evelyn. I found her in her room, trying on different outfits for some networking event our parents were funding. "Evelyn, I wanted to tell you about this project I'm working on." "Let me guess," she said without looking up from her mirror. "You're helping your college friend with her little computer thing. It's actually a marketing company. We have paying clients." Now she turned around, and the look on her face was pure condescension. "Clara, that's adorable. You're playing businesswoman. But let's be realistic, you manage social media accounts for mom and pop shops. I'm building relationships with Fortune 500 executives. There's a difference between playing house and running an actual business. Playing businesswoman. Playing house. Our clients are real businesses with real problems." "Cute." Evelyn cut me off. "You help restaurants post pictures on Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm meeting with Richard Callahan next month about potential partnerships. You know, actual business." Richard Callahan. I'd heard that name before. He was some big-shot CEO that our parents worshipped from afar. "Dad thinks Richard might mentor me," Evelyn continued, turning back to her mirror. "He said he's impressed with my potential. Unlike some people, I actually have what it takes to succeed in the corporate world." Unlike some people. Meaning unlike me. Each conversation was like a nail in the coffin of any hope I had that my family might support my dreams. They didn't just doubt me, they couldn't even imagine me succeeding. But you know what? Their complete dismissal did something unexpected. It freed me. If they thought I was incapable of building anything meaningful, then I had nothing to lose by proving them catastrophically wrong. Have you ever had people dismiss your dreams so completely that it actually motivated you to work harder? Because what happened next would make their underestimation the biggest mistake they ever made. While my family continued treating me like their personal assistant, Nova Strategies was quietly becoming something incredible. By month 8, we had 12 regular clients. By month 10, we had 23. By our first anniversary, we were managing campaigns for 37 businesses across 3 different cities. The crazy part? My family still had no idea. Every morning, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to start breakfast. Make my father's coffee exactly how he liked it, 2 sugars, splash of cream. Pack Evelyn's lunch in the expensive containers she insisted on. clean the kitchen until it sparkled. Then I drive to my receptionist job, answer phones for 8 hours, and pretend to be the same quiet, unremarkable Clara everyone expected me to be. But after 5 p.m., I transformed into someone completely different. Naomi and I had moved into a real office space downtown. Nothing fancy, but it had proper conference rooms and enough space for the 2 employees we'd hired. Sarah handled client communications, and Marcus managed our growing social media accounts. Clara, you need to see this, Naomi said one Tuesday afternoon, practically bouncing with excitement. She showed me her laptop screen, which displayed our bank account balance. $47,000. $47,000 in profit, just sitting there. We're not playing anymore, she said. This is a real company. Our biggest success story was a local gym called Ironwool Fitness. When we took them on, they had maybe 50 members and were 3 months behind on rent. The owner, a former Marine named Jake, was desperate. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, he told us during our first meeting. I have great equipment, good trainers, but nobody knows we exist. We created a complete transformation campaign. Social media content featuring real member success stories. Partnerships with local nutritionists and physical therapists. A referral program that rewarded members for bringing friends. Within 6 months, Ironwool had a waiting list. Jake had to expand into the space next door. His revenue increased by 400%. You ladies changed my life, he said, writing us a check for our biggest monthly payment yet. I was about to lose everything. Now I'm looking at opening a second location. That check was for $3,500. More than my family spent on groceries in 3 months. But to them, I was still just Clara, who couldn't handle anything important. The hardest part wasn't managing the business. It was living the double life. I'd sit through family dinners listening to Evelyn brag about her internship at some downtown firm, knowing that I was probably making more money than she was. I'd nod politely when my father gave me advice about realistic career expectations, while secretly planning expansion strategies for our company. One night, my mother was hosting her book club in our living room. I was serving wine and cheese when one of the ladies, Mrs. Patterson, mentioned that her daughter's bakery was struggling. She's so talented, but she just can't get customers, Mrs. Patterson said sadly. These days, if you're not on the internet, you might as well be invisible. I almost spoke up, almost said, I could help with that. But I caught my mother's eye across the room. She was giving me that look. The one that said, don't embarrass us by pretending you know about things above your station. Instead, I just refilled wine glasses and listened to them worry about a problem I could easily solve. But the universe has a funny way of setting up perfect moments. 2 weeks later, I was working late at the office when Naomi burst through the door with the most incredible news. Clara, you're not going to believe this, she said, waving a piece of paper. Remember that proposal we submitted to Callahan Industries 3 months ago? The one we never heard back about. Callahan Industries. The same company Evelyn had been bragging about, the one owned by the CEO my parents worshipped. They want to meet, Naomi continued. Next Friday. Richard Callahan himself wants to discuss a potential partnership. I stared at the letter in my hands, my heart pounding. Richard Callahan, the man my father considered the pinnacle of business success, wanted to meet with me. With me. Clara Daniels. The daughter, who was nothing without this family. This could change everything, Naomi said. She had no idea how right she was. Because 3 days later, I discovered that Richard Callahan was having dinner at my house. And my family had no clue who was really coming to meet him. Friday afternoon, I was sitting in our office conference room reviewing the presentation for Monday's meeting with Richard Callahan when my phone rang. Clara, thank goodness, my mother's voice was practically vibrating with excitement. I need you to come home immediately. We're having the most important dinner of our lives tonight. Tonight? I checked my calendar. Mom, I have plans. Cancel them. Richard Callahan is coming to dinner. The words hit me like lightning. Richard Callahan. The same Richard Callahan I was supposed to meet with on Monday. The man whose company had requested a partnership meeting with Nova Strategies. Richard Callahan? I repeated slowly. Yes, the Richard Callahan. CEO of Callahan Industries. Your father has been trying to get his attention for years, and finally, through some connections at the country club, we managed to get him to agree to dinner. This could change everything for our family. I sat there staring out the window, trying to process what was happening. The universe was either playing the cruelest joke in history or handing me the most perfect opportunity for revenge. Evelyn is so nervous, my mother continued. She's been preparing for weeks. Your father thinks Richard might mentor her, maybe even offer her a position at his company. Can you imagine? Our little Evelyn working directly for Richard Callahan. Our little Evelyn, who had never successfully managed anything more complicated than her social calendar. I need you home in an hour, my mother said. The house needs to be perfect. I've hired caterers, but you'll need to coordinate everything. Make sure the wine is properly chilled, the flowers are fresh, the silverware is spotless. Of course, even for the most important dinner of their lives, I was still to help. What time is dinner? I asked. 7 sharp. And Clara, wear something presentable. Nothing too attention-grabbing. We don't want to distract from Evelyn. I hung up the phone and stared at Naomi, who had been listening to my side of the conversation with growing amazement. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? She asked.
This is insane, I said.
What are the odds? This isn't about odds, Naomi said, grinning. This is about destiny. You're going to meet your biggest potential client at your family's dinner table, and they have no idea who you really are. The situation was almost too perfect. My family had spent months preparing to impress Richard Callahan, never knowing that he was already planning to do business with me. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing with possibilities. Should I tell them the truth? Should I let them embarrass themselves? Should I use this opportunity to finally show them who I really was? When I walked into the house, it looked like a magazine spread. Fresh flowers everywhere, crystal glasses sparkling, the good china laid out on our mahogany dining table. My mother was directing the caterers with military precision while Evelyn tried on her 3rd different dress. Clara, finally, my father called from the living room. Come help your sister decide what to wear. She needs to make the perfect first impression. I found Evelyn standing in front of her full-length mirror, practically glowing with excitement. She had 3 dresses laid out on her bed, all of them expensive, all of them chosen to impress. Which one says future CEO? Without being too aggressive, she asked me seriously.
Future CEO.
If she only knew. The blue one is nice, I said diplomatically.
Perfect.
And Clara, I need you to stay in the background tonight. I know you mean well, but this dinner is crucial for my career. I can't have any distractions. Any distractions. Meaning me. Don't worry, I said, fighting to keep my voice neutral. I'll stay out of your way. But as I went to my room to change clothes, I made a decision. I wasn't going to tell them about Nova strategies ahead of time. I wasn't going to ruin their big moment by revealing the truth early. Instead, I was going to let them perform their little show for Richard Callahan. I was going to let them present Evelyn as the future business leader of the family. And then I was going to let Richard Callahan tell them exactly who he was really there to see. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting the truth speak for itself. Have you ever been in a position where you knew something that would completely change everything, but you had to wait for the perfect moment to reveal it? Because what happened at that dinner table would destroy their assumptions about me forever. By 6:30 p.m., our house looked like something out of a movie. The dining room sparkled under the chandelier, expensive wine was breathing on the counter, and the smell of catered gourmet food filled the air. My mother had changed clothes 3 times. My father had practiced his opening conversation topics in front of the mirror. Evelyn looked like she was preparing for the most important job interview of her life. And me? I was in the kitchen, arranging appetizer plates and trying to calm my racing heart. Clara, remember, my father said, straightening his tie for the 5th time, tonight is about making the right impression. Evelyn needs to shine. Just serve the food, keep the glasses full, and let your sister handle the conversation. Just serve the food. Even tonight, when everything was about to change forever, I was still invisible to them. At exactly 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. He's here, Evelyn whispered, smoothing down her blue dress one last time. My father opened the door with his biggest smile. Mr. Callahan, welcome to our home. I'm Harold Daniels, and this is my wife, Margaret. I stayed in the kitchen, listening to the introductions, my hands trembling as I arranged wine glasses on a silver tray. And this must be the famous Evelyn, I heard Richard Callahan say. Your father has told me so much about you. The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Callahan, Evelyn replied in her most professional voice. I've been following your career for years. Your expansion into international markets was brilliant. I almost rolled my eyes. Evelyn had probably Googled him that afternoon. Please call me Richard, he said warmly. I understand you're interested in business? Absolutely. I've been interning downtown learning everything I can about corporate strategy and client relations. Corporate strategy. She answered phones at a law firm. I picked up the wine tray and headed toward the dining room, keeping my head down and my expression neutral. Just the help bringing drinks to the important people. As I moved around the table, filling glasses, I listened to my family perform. My father name-dropped every connection he had. My mother talked about Evelyn's natural leadership abilities. Evelyn discussed her passion for innovative business solutions. Richard Callahan nodded politely, asked thoughtful questions, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know them. He was exactly what I'd expected from our phone calls, smart, charming, and incredibly successful. So tell me about your business philosophy, Evelyn, Richard said as I served the main course. What do you think makes a company truly successful? Evelyn launched into some generic response about synergy and leveraging core competencies that she'd obviously memorized from a business magazine. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Interesting perspective, Richard said diplomatically. I've always believed that real success comes from solving actual problems for real people. Not just talking about strategy, but implementing solutions that create measurable results. Absolutely. Evelyn agreed quickly, though I could tell she had no idea what specific solutions he was referring to. As I refilled water glasses, Richard's eyes briefly met mine. There was something in his expression, a flicker of recognition that made my stomach flip. Could he tell who I was? Did he remember my voice from our phone conferences? And what about you, young lady? Richard said suddenly, addressing me directly. The entire table went silent. My father looked confused. My mother looked mortified. Evelyn looked like she'd been slapped. I'm sorry, I said softly. You've been very attentive tonight. Do you work in the service industry? I could feel my family's eyes on me, warning me not to embarrass them. I work in business consulting, I said carefully. My father laughed nervously. Clara has a little side project with a college friend. Nothing serious. Business consulting, Richard repeated thoughtfully. What kind of consulting? This was it. The moment where I could either retreat back into invisibility or step into the light. I looked around the table at my family, at their expectant faces, their complete confidence that I would stay in my place, their absolute certainty that Evelyn was the star of the show. Digital marketing strategy, I said clearly, for small and medium businesses. How fascinating, Richard said, and I swear I saw him smile. Tell me more. What happened next would change everything. Well, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We help businesses build their online presence and develop marketing strategies that actually drive revenue, not just social media followers. Richard Callahan leaned forward in his chair, suddenly very interested. That sounds like exactly the kind of practical approach I respect. Too many consultants focus on vanity metrics instead of real results. My family was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. This wasn't how the evening was supposed to go. I was supposed to serve dinner quietly, while Evelyn impressed their important guest. Clara, my mother said with a tight smile, I'm sure Mr. Callahan doesn't want to hear about your little hobby. Actually, Richard said, I'm very interested. The small business market is incredibly underserved by traditional marketing agencies. What's your company called? My heart stopped. This was the moment. I could lie, deflect, change the subject. Or I could tell the truth and watch my family's entire world shift on its axis. Nova Strategies, I said quietly. Richard's face broke into the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Nova Strategies? Are you Clara Daniels? The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the corner, the soft hum of the air conditioning, the sound of my father's wine glass hitting the table too hard. You know each other? Evelyn asked weakly. Richard laughed, actually laughed, and shook his head in amazement. Know each other? Clara, what are you doing serving dinner? You should be sitting at the head of this table. My father's face had gone completely pale. My mother looked like she was seeing a ghost. Evelyn's mouth was hanging open. I don't understand. My father stammered. You know our Clara? You're Clara? Richard repeated, and now there was an edge to his voice. Sir, this is Clara Daniels, CEO of Nova Strategies. She's one of the most impressive young entrepreneurs I've met in years.
I saw.
The word hung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. There must be some mistake, my mother said faintly. Clara works as a receptionist. She helps her friend with some computer projects. Richard turned to look at me, his expression shifting from confusion to something that looked almost like anger. Clara, they don't know? I shook my head, unable to speak. Don't know what? Evelyn demanded. Richard set down his fork and looked around the table. Your daughter, your sister, has built one of the most successful boutique marketing firms in the state. Nova Strategies has a 6-month waiting list. We've been trying to partner with them for months. That's impossible, my father said. Clara doesn't have the experience, the education, the what? Richard interrupted, and now his voice was sharp. The skills? The intelligence? The business acumen? Because from where I sit, she has all three in abundance. He turned back to me. Clara, I have to ask, why didn't you tell them about Monday's meeting? Monday's meeting. The partnership discussion. The contract worth more than my father made in 2 years. What meeting? Evelyn whispered. We're finalizing a partnership agreement, Richard explained, never taking his eyes off me. Callahan Industries is bringing Nova Strategies on as our exclusive small business marketing consultants. It's a 7-figure deal. 7 figures. The number hit the table like a physical blow. My mother grabbed her wine glass with shaking hands. My father stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Evelyn looked like she was going to be sick. This whole time, my father said slowly, while you thought I was nothing, I finished quietly. While you thought I was too plain, too quiet, not cut out for business. Richard Callahan looked around the table with an expression I couldn't quite read.
Disappointment, maybe.
Or disgust. Well, he said finally, I think I understand now why Clara kept this quiet. If my own family didn't believe in me, I might have done the same thing. The room was so quiet you could hear hearts breaking. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one cleaning up the mess. Have you ever had a moment where everything you thought you knew about someone was completely wrong? Because what happened next would change my family forever. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. Richard Callahan sat back in his chair, studying my family's faces with the same analytical expression he probably used in boardroom negotiations. My father was the first to try to recover. Mr. Callahan, I think there's been some misunderstanding. Clara is very creative, but she's never mentioned any major business dealings. That's because you never asked, I said quietly, finding my voice. You assumed I was incapable of anything important. Clara, that's not fair. My mother jumped in, her voice shaking. We've always supported you. Richard raised an eyebrow. Supported her? Mrs. Daniels, 5 minutes ago you called her business a little hobby and told her to serve dinner while discussing her sister's career prospects. Evelyn finally spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. How long have you been running this company?
2 years, I said.
2 years, my father repeated.
Where? How?
We never saw. Because you never looked, I interrupted, feeling 24 years of suppressed anger finally breaking free. I've been living a double life, working 18-hour days, building something real while you treated me like hired help. But your job at the accounting firm, my mother started, was my cover story. I quit 6 months ago when Nova Strategy started making more money than my receptionist salary. Richard leaned forward. Clara, perhaps you could help your family understand the scope of what you've built. I took a deep breath. We have 43 active clients across 5 states. Last month, we generated $73,000 in revenue. We're on track to break 7 figures this year. The numbers hung in the air like accusations. 73,000? Evelyn repeated faintly. In 1 month. That's more than I make in 3 months, my father said, and for the first time in my life, I heard something new in his voice when he spoke to me. Respect. But it was too late for respect. Mr. Callahan, my mother said desperately, surely you can understand our confusion. Clara has always been. Well, she's always been content with simple things. We had no idea she had such ambitious dreams. Content. Richard's voice was ice cold. Mrs. Daniels, from what I've observed tonight, Clara wasn't content. She was surviving. There's a significant difference. My father tried a different approach. Clara, sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We could have helped. We could have helped. The word came out as a laugh, but there was no humor in it. Dad, 3 months ago I asked for your advice about handling a difficult client. You told me to stop embarrassing myself and find a secretary job. I was trying to protect you from disappointment. You were protecting yourselves from having to see me as anything more than your live-in maid. Richard cleared his throat. Perhaps I should leave. This seems like a family conversation. No, I said quickly.
Please stay.
I think it's important that you see who these people really are. My mother flinched like I'd slapped her. Clara, that's enough, my father said, his voice getting stern. We're still your family. We still deserve respect. Respect? I stood up, my hands shaking. Where was my respect when you made me serve your guests while praising Evelyn's potential? Where was my respect when you told me I was nothing without this family? I never said. My father began. You said exactly that. 2 weeks ago. After I spilled soup on Evelyn's dress. You told me I was lucky you kept me at all. Richard's expression darkened. You said that to her? My father's face flushed. It was a moment of frustration. I didn't mean. You meant every word, I said. Just like you meant it when you said I wasn't CEO material. Just like you meant it when you said I should leave the big dreams to Evelyn. Evelyn buried her face in her hands. Oh God, Clara, I had no idea you were. You had no idea, because you never bothered to find out. None of you did. Richard stood up. I think I've seen enough. Clara, I'll call you Monday to finalize our partnership. As for the rest of you. He looked around the table with obvious disappointment. I hope you realize what you almost lost tonight. After he left, my family sat in stunned silence, staring at the ruins of their perfect dinner party. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one cleaning up the mess they'd made. But the real reckoning was just beginning. 3 days after the dinner that changed everything, I was packing my belongings into boxes when my mother knocked on my bedroom door. Clara, honey, can we talk? I looked up from folding my clothes, the same clothes I'd been buying for myself while they spent thousands on Evelyn's wardrobe. What's there to talk about, Mom? She sat down on my bed, looking older than I'd ever seen her. I know you're angry, but leaving isn't the answer. This is your home. No, I said, carefully placing my business books into a box. This was my workplace. I just didn't realize I was never going to get paid. That's not fair. We provided for you, You provided for me the same way you'd provide for a live-in housekeeper. Room and board in exchange for services. My mother's face crumpled. Clara, we love you. I stopped packing and looked at her, really looked at her.
Do you?
Because love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's action. It's believing in someone. It's treating them like they matter. You do matter. You've always mattered. Then why didn't you know about my business? Why didn't you ask about my dreams? Why did you assume I was too plain, too quiet, too unremarkable to accomplish anything significant? She didn't have an answer. My father appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. Clara, Mr. Callahan called. He wants to schedule a meeting to discuss expanding your partnership. I almost laughed. Now that I was profitable, suddenly my business meetings mattered. I'll handle it, I said coolly. Maybe we could help. I have connections, business experience. Dad, with all due respect, my company is more successful than anything you've ever built. I don't need your help. The words hit him like a physical blow, but they were true. My father had worked for the same insurance company for 30 years, never advancing beyond middle management. Meanwhile, I'd built something from nothing. You don't have to be cruel, he said quietly. I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. That afternoon, I met with a real estate agent and signed a lease on a downtown apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Clean lines, big windows, and most importantly, no one to serve but myself. When I came back to pack the rest of my things, Victor was waiting in my room. Clara, I owe you an apology. I continued folding clothes. Just one. Okay, a lot of apologies.
I should have stood up for you.
I should have seen what was happening. But you didn't. No, I didn't. I was a coward. I took the easy path and let them treat you like. He struggled for words. Like the help. Yeah. And I'm sorry. Truly sorry. I studied my brother's face, looking for signs of sincerity. Victor had always been the passive one, the peacekeeper who avoided conflict by staying neutral. Sorry doesn't undo 24 years of watching me get dismissed and doing nothing, I said. I know. But maybe it's a start. Maybe. But trust, once broken, doesn't heal quickly. The hardest conversation was with Evelyn. She cornered me in the kitchen while I was collecting the coffee maker I'd bought with my own money. Clara, I feel terrible about everything. You should. I never knew you were building something so incredible. If I had known, you would have what? Suddenly started treating me like an equal? Offered to help with dishes? Acknowledged that I had dreams too? I don't know. Maybe. I was so focused on my own future that I never thought about yours. That's the problem, Evelyn. You never thought about me at all. None of you did. She started crying. What can I do to fix this? I looked at my sister, beautiful, privileged, accustomed to being the center of attention, and felt something surprising. Not anger anymore, but pity. You can't fix it, I said gently. But you can learn from it. You can start treating people like they matter, even if they're not useful to you. The next morning, I loaded my last box into my car and drove away from the house that had never felt like home. I didn't look back. Some chapters of your life, you close with satisfaction. Others you close with relief. This was relief. 2 months after I moved out, Evelyn called me at the office. Her voice was shaky, uncertain, nothing like the confident golden child I'd grown up with. Clara, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to ask you something. I put her on speaker so Naomi could hear. We'd made it a policy to document all family interactions, just in case. What do you need, Evelyn? I was wondering if you might have any job openings at Nova Strategies. The silence in our office was deafening. Naomi's eyes went wide. Sarah, our client coordinator, stopped typing. You want to work for me? I asked carefully. I know how it sounds, but Clara, I'm desperate. The internship at the law firm ended, and I've been applying everywhere. Nobody wants to hire me. I wasn't surprised. Evelyn had coasted through life on our parents' connections and her own charm, but she'd never developed actual skills. What happened to all those Fortune 500 contacts you were always bragging about? They weren't as real as I thought. Most of them were just polite conversations at networking events. When I followed up, nobody remembered me. Of course they didn't. Networking isn't just about showing up in a pretty dress and making small talk. What about Richard Callahan? I thought he was going to mentor you. Evelyn's voice got smaller. After that dinner, he never returned my calls. I think he lost respect for our family after seeing how we treated you.
Smart man.
So now you want to work for the sister you spent years treating like hired help. Clara, please. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm running out of options. Mom and Dad can't support me forever, and I don't have any real experience. This was Rich. Evelyn, who had told me I was playing businesswoman, was now begging me for a job. What makes you think you'd be good at marketing? I asked. I'm good with people. I understand social media. I could learn. Evelyn, being good with people means more than charming them at parties. It means listening to their problems, understanding their needs, and creating solutions that actually help them. When have you ever done that? She was quiet for a long time. I know I've been selfish. I know I took you for granted. But I'm trying to change. Are you? Or are you just trying to survive now that the family golden child thing isn't working out? Both, she admitted quietly. Maybe both. I had to give her credit for honesty. Here's the thing, Evelyn. I don't hire people because they're family. I hire people because they can do the job. Every person who works here has earned their position through skill, dedication, and results. I could earn it too. Could you? Could you handle being the least experienced person in the room? Could you take direction from your younger sister? Could you work late nights and weekends without complaining? Could you start at the bottom and prove yourself, knowing that some people here make more money than our parents? Another long silence. I don't know. Maybe. I want to try. That's not good enough, I said firmly. I need people who know they can do the work, not people who want to try. I need people who respect others regardless of their position. I need people who understand that success comes from solving problems, not just looking pretty in meetings. Clara, I'm not finished. Most importantly, I need people who would never, ever treat someone the way you treated me. Because the receptionist in this office gets the same respect as the CEO. Everyone here matters. Everyone here has value. I could hear her crying on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry for everything. I know you are. But sorry doesn't qualify you for a job. After I hung up, Naomi looked at me with something like, aw, that was harsh. That was honest, I corrected. Evelyn is paying the price for a lifetime of entitlement. Sometimes that's what it takes to wake people up. But honestly, part of me felt sad for her. It's hard to discover that everything you thought made you special was just an illusion. Still, some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Unlike Evelyn, Victor didn't ask me for anything. He just started showing up. First, it was a text message. Saw an article about Nova strategies in the business journal. Proud of you. Then it was a coffee delivery to my office with a note. Thought you might need caffeine. No strings attached. After that, he started appearing at family events I wasn't attending anymore, asking uncomfortable questions. I found out about this from my mother during one of her increasingly frequent phone calls. Victor is being impossible, she complained. At Sunday dinner last week, he spent the entire meal talking about how wrong we were about you. He actually walked out when your father said we were working things out. Good for him, I said, genuinely surprised. It's not good for anyone. Our family is falling apart. Mom, our family fell apart years ago. You're just noticing now because the person holding it together left. But Victor's real test came 3 months later, when he showed up at my apartment unannounced on a Saturday morning. We need to talk, he said when I opened the door. If this is another family reconciliation attempt. It's not. It's about me taking responsibility. I let him in, curious despite myself. Victor sat on my couch and pulled out a piece of paper. I've been going to therapy. Dr. Richardson helped me understand some things about our family dynamic, and I need to say this properly. He unfolded what looked like a letter. Clara, I've been thinking about this for months, and I realize that saying I'm sorry isn't enough. I need to acknowledge specifically what I did wrong. This was unexpected. I was a bystander to your abuse. Yes, abuse. That's what Dr. Richardson called it. Emotional neglect, parentification, systematic devaluation. I watched it happen for 24 years and told myself it wasn't my job to intervene. I sat down across from him, stunned by his directness. I told you to be patient and do what they say because it was easier for me than confronting our parents. I prioritized my own comfort over your well-being. That makes me complicit. His voice was shaking now. I also need to admit that part of me was relieved you were the family's scapegoat because it meant I wasn't. As long as they were focused on what you were doing wrong, they left me alone. I benefited from your suffering, and I'm ashamed of that. I had never heard Victor talk like this, with such raw honesty and self-awareness. But here's what I want you to know, he continued. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to be let off the hook. I'm not asking you to have a relationship with me that you don't want. Then what are you asking? Nothing. I'm just telling you that I see you now. I see what you accomplished despite everything we put you through. I see how strong you are, how brilliant you are, how much courage it took to build something amazing while pretending to be invisible. He folded up the letter. I'm also telling you that I'm changing. I've started calling out our parents when they make excuses for how they treated you. I've stopped participating in family gatherings that pretend everything is normal. And I'm learning to recognize when I'm being a passive bystander in other situations.
Why?
I asked. Why now? Because I looked in the mirror and didn't like who I saw. And because my little sister turned out to be stronger and more successful than any of us, and I want to be someone worthy of that. We sat in silence for a few minutes. I can't promise I'll trust you, I said finally. I know, and I can't promise I'll forgive you anytime soon. I know that too. But I appreciate you saying this. It means something that you're taking responsibility instead of just apologizing. Victor nodded.
Dr.
Richardson says healing isn't about forgiveness. It's about truth. I wanted to tell you the truth. After he left, I sat on my couch thinking about second chances and earned redemption. Some people change because they have to. Others change because they want to be better. Maybe Victor was the second type. Time would tell. Today, I'm sitting in my corner office on the 30th floor, looking down at the flower shop where this all started. Nova Strategies now employs 15 people and manages campaigns for over 100 clients, including 3 Fortune 500 companies. My relationship with my family is complicated now. My father calls monthly saying things like, "I always knew you had potential," conveniently forgetting he told me I was nothing. My mother sends care packages with business articles about my success. Evelyn works as a restaurant hostess, finally learning what it means to work for respect instead of having it handed to you. Victor kept his promise. 8 months of therapy changed him. He calls out dysfunction when he sees it and actually stands up for people now. But the most important change was learning that your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see it. Richard Callahan became both a client and mentor. When he asks about my family, I tell him they're learning to see me differently. Good, he says, though I'm not sure the credit goes to them. You were already remarkable. They just finally got their eyes checked. The funniest part? I still cook Sunday dinners. But now I cook for my Nova Strategies team in our conference room. We share food, ideas, and dreams. When people compliment my cooking, I'm sitting at the table eating with them instead of standing in the kitchen serving them. These people celebrate my successes and treat me like I matter. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the one you're born into. So if you've ever felt overlooked or told you weren't good enough, remember my story. Remember that somewhere out there is a CEO who used to serve dinner to people who called her nothing. Your turn is coming. You're not nothing. You never were. You're the boss they just haven't met yet. If this story hit close to home, you're not alone. Drop a comment below and tell me. Backhand pointing right, have you ever been underestimated by people who should have believed in you? Backhand pointing right, what would your revenge success story look like? And if you enjoyed Clara's journey from invisible to unstoppable, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell, because I've got more stories about people who proved everyone wrong. Remember, your worth isn't determined by those who can't see it. You're the boss they just haven't met yet. See you in the next story.